Greetings viewers, Landy Berkland here, and on this channel we like to talk about stuff. If you're looking for riding videos, I suggest you head over to Loud Landy and subscribe. And subscribe to this channel as well. Okay, today's video is, how do you treat your quad? This is like the 50 millionth time I'm actually doing this video. I had other bits and pieces of another video that should have worked, and I should have just cut and spliced, but I just didn't want to. Okay, I got a question, a story, and everything else. First question is, how do you treat your quad? Are you the type of guy that keeps it clean the second you, after you ride, you sit there and wash it down and wax it and polish it? Or are you the type of guy that just says, I'll put it off till another day? Or are you the type of guy that says, clean? Nah, not me. I think the muddier the better. Well, there are people out there like that, sadly. So, anyway, here's my story. I first got into riding. I knew this person. And I didn't know a thing about quads back then. Like we all do, you know, we all get into these quads. We're like, hey, just start the key, wrap it, and go. You see a mud puddle, man, go through it. You know, you don't wash them, you don't wax them, you don't take care of them. And then things start breaking, and you're sitting there like, I wonder why that is. Well, they're parts. They're going to go. Anyway, I have friends that, well, I did have friends, and I'm sure I still have friends out there somewhere that keep their quads dirty. I knew this person that had a quad. Still does, in fact. And this person said, you never wash your quad because the muddier the better. And when I first got into quads, I was guilty of this too. When I first got my quad, I thought the same exact thing. Man, muddy, the better. You just show up on the trails, the quad's filled with mud. People know that you're a mud freak. People love it. And then I was talking to another person, and they said that, listen, the muddier your quad is, the more you leave it muddier, the worse it's going to be. And I said, oh yeah, well, why is that? Because, you know, this other person that I know says the muddier the better. No, Landy, because when that mud dries, it hardens. And when you are going through mud holes again, what you're actually doing is you're taking that first layer of mud and pushing it in the bearings and seals. Thus, now, when it dries again and you keep repeating the process, you're now creating sandpaper in the bearing. And I don't care how much grease you pack that bearing with, that mud is going to harden, and it's going to push past the seal, it's going to push past the grease, and it's going to mess your bearings up pretty bad. So after I actually talked to this person, because this first person, I can honestly say, was a complete moron, who said, oh, you keep your quad dirtier, it's better. And like I said, you know, I was guilty. I thought it gave it a little glow, like, oh, look, I'm not afraid to hit mud holes. You know, it was me saying I love the mud. But then I got talking to the smarter guy, and he's like, this is why you don't do it. And then it's just like, oh, you know, you can always show up again to a mud hole, and hey, I hit it once, boom. If I feel like doing it again, I do it again. If I don't want to hit no mud holes and keep the quad clean, I don't have to worry about it because it's clean. So, with that, I actually started to wash my bearings and stuff. Well, fast forward to this past year. I met a guy, and he says, yeah, my quad's in a shed, and I keep it clean. That's great. Come to find out, he keeps it in his backyard, and all the nuts and bolts on it are rusted. And it got me scratching. I'm like, oh, this guy keeps it in a locked garage, and I'm looking at this guy's quad, and it's real hard to shift. And I'm thinking to myself, he told me he keeps it in a shed. Why is his shifter so hard to get in and out of drive? And I'm looking. I'm like, there's something got to be hung up. Or not hung up, but stuck. So I'm looking, and I noticed a lot of his nuts and bolts are just orange, filled with rust. And then that's when I found out he never keeps it in a shed. He just keeps it out in the open to the elements. And it's just like, how can you do such a thing? You know, it's. I mean, you paid so much money for this machine, and you just keep it out in the elements. And I know a lot of quadders that are like that, but I mean, it's. I'd rather waste X amount of dollars on a tarp and tarp my quads if they're going to be out in the elements for any amount of time, rather than leave them sit there and get rained on. And even this smart guy that told me to wash my quad is a bit of a moron, because he says you can't keep the quads under tarps because after it rains. And he does make a valid point. He said that sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. He said that quads are made to be outside. They're made to get wet. You know, the water just beads off them. So he doesn't tarp it or nothing. And also he said because after the rain, all the moisture collects underneath the tarp. Well, that's a given. That does happen. But I'm not going to leave a machine that I paid a lot of money for and sank a lot of money into just out in the open. Whether or not moisture collects underneath the tarp or not, I'm still not going to leave it outside unprotected when it is outside. So, I mean, there's just pros and cons. Well, actually, there's a con to everything of leaving it outside, leaving it dirty. I also want to know what you viewers do to keep your quads clean. I was just over my buddy's house a few weeks ago, and we got back from a long ride, and he pulled his quad in his backyard, and this is totally not any of the people that I mentioned in this video. This person's gonna know who I'm talking about the second I start. Just listen to the story. He pulls it off his trailer. I don't want to give too much information away. So he pulled it off his trailer. He pulls it into his yard. And he takes out his pressure washer. And this is funny. I find it very hilarious because there are people that are 10,000 times worse than me with cleaning their quads. He's sitting there with his pressure washer. And he's bending down and he's getting all up underneath the plastics. And it's funny. I find that funny because that is a guy who takes the utmost pride in his machine. And I respect those guys that will go the extra distance to make sure their quads are clean. I pulled off the plastics to my red Lakota yesterday. And I'm like, I'm going to pull them off and there's going to be no dirt. Well, up underneath the utmost edge, you see a black line of mud. And I'm just looking at it and I'm like, I thought I got this. Well, I didn't get it. So it's going out there today. I don't care how god darn cold it is outside. It's going out there and I'm going to get that dirt out. But now, are you the type of guy that right after the ride you clean your quad? And how do you do it? I'm the type of guy that when I come home, I rinse the heavy dirt off. I'll literally sit there with my garden hose, and all I do is use a garden hose. And sometimes I'll hold it like this and up in the air and down, and other times I'll just hold it like that. And whatever, it depends on what I'm getting at. But I'll get all the thick mud off. I'll make sure I do that, and I'll make sure I cover the quad in a pin spray, and then I'll kind of widen the blade to a fan type spray to make sure that whatever I missed, I kind of get, or whatever kicked up from, say, the floorboards on the engine, that the fan, when I come by the engine with the fan, it'll just drop, and it won't just explode all over the place. And then the next day, the day after I do that, I'll go with the slick wash, and I'll spray it on the quad, and slick wash says you want to take a microfiber brush and go over any thick mud. I don't use a slick microfiber brush. I went to the dollar store and actually got one of those handle broom things. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The broom handles. Hand brooms. Thank you. You know what? I'll just show you here. It's better if I just show you what I use here. If I can find it. Yes, here it is. What I'll do is I use one of these. They're a little bit stiffer on the. They're stiffer, but they're still soft. See what I'm saying? I guess you could call this a microfiber brush, but from what I've seen in the slick wash videos, this seems to be a little bit stiffer. So what I'll do is I'll take that and I'll spray the quad down with slick, and then I'll go ahead and brush it down, let it sit for a while, and then hose it all down, and it almost comes out looking like new. So I constantly get questions, you know, this won't work, that won't work, why? And then I pull it over, and then they show me pictures of the problem they're having, and I'll be like, well, I need X amount of pictures of this, and then they'll send it to me, and it'll be just caked in mud, and I'm like, do you clean your quad? Well, no, I don't. Well, then, well, there's your problem. Or, I mean, I've worked on a few quads for customers that came in, and I mean, you couldn't even pull their connectors apart. Like, it was bad. Like, you have to pull this connector apart in order to do something. And you just couldn't pull it apart because the mud was just, ugh. And I'm just like, yep, that's not going to work. So, I mean, I can't stress that enough. Everybody has got to keep their quads cleaned. You never want to let the quad, now this is what I was told, you never want to let the quad sit 24 hours after you get it muddy to clean it. So my suggestion to you viewers is the minute you get it home or off the trail, take it to a car wash if you can afford it. Go home with your garden hose. Just get the mud off the quad. Dirt, coal. If you're from Pennsylvania, you're in coal country. That coal soot is so fine, it'll wreck bearings. It'll eat bearings like crazy. You just got to get rid of it. It's preventative maintenance. That's all that it's about. Preventative maintenance. It goes a long, long way. Because then if, like I said, if you leave the mud on the quad, and you keep going muddy, and you keep flying through these mud holes without cleaning them, you're going to push that mud and stuff past the seals, into the bearings, and you're going to be going through bearings left and right. But, hey, you don't have to take my advice. I've been there. I've done that. So, now on to you guys. What do you guys do to keep your quads clean, if anything? If you don't, well then, that's on you. So, rate, subscribe, join in on the conversation. Till next time, YouTube.